cut my mic on. I saw Savage Scientist was in the house. So I appreciate you for showing up. Let me know if you can hear me. Hit me one in the chat. I think that's it. I see Savage Scientist. I see Friday. Shout out to Friday. He the one that told me to take a look at it. So shout out to him or her. I guess I can't tell which Friday it is, but shout out to Friday. They sent me this. So I thought it was super interesting. So once again, hit me with one in the chat if you can hear me. Let people file in. Let's see. Whew, man, I am wore out this Friday, but we gonna make it. We gonna make it. So you see it. That ain't a bad thumbnail for me. Huber hacked by the team. The team was disrespectful. We're gonna go over the article, then we're gonna dive into a few technical things. So see what's going on. Let's see. Hit me a one in the chat if you can hear me. Make sure. I think I'm good. I think I'm good. Let's see. What's good? Can you hear me? What's up, John? Oh, cool. Appreciate it. Antonio Brown in the house. Glad for joining me. Great start shortly. We're gonna read the article. Then we're gonna get in a few technical things from a cybersecurity blue team perspective. We're gonna dive into it. So let's get into the article. Once again, shout out to Friday. They were hooking me up. So people send me articles I like. Give them a shout out. So make that a little bigger for the old people in the back, which is me. Let's see, boom. Okay. Hope everybody's having a good Friday. So what's up, Fridge? In the house. Glad you can make it. So we're gonna hit on certain points of the article. So I'm gonna start because I'm sure we're gonna be touching back on it. So Uber apparently was hacked by a team. Employees thought it was a joke at first. I think it would be appreciated less memes while they handle the breach, right? So the team was hitting them with memes as while as the team hacked into Uber, the organization, which is weird because Uber is a billion-dollar organization, man. So you would think their cybersecurity would be a little tighter than this. BBO, you going live a lot more. You must be feeling young this week. Yeah, a little bit casual, a little bit. I'm feeling a little better, man. So I said I'm gonna start going live a little more, get back on it. When I was first trying to get monetized, I was going live like 4 times a week, man. I was trying to keep it up with my man before the billions, man. I might do a 30-hour live stream. That is a joke. He actually did one, but I appreciate that. I am feeling a little younger today. So let's get into it. Shout out to the Uber. I always do Lyft. I had a bad experience with Uber when I was in San Francisco, so I never use Uber again. So I'm just gonna leave it there. So let's get on it. Uber said it's investigating a cyber incident amidst reports that the company internal system had been breached. The alleged hacker, who claims to be an 18-year-old, said they have administrative access to the company's tools, including their Amazon web servers and their Google platform. So you got an 18-year-old just embarrassing you, man. And we're gonna go through there. He was posting stuff, he was showing receipts and everything else on the company's website. So we're gonna hit it. Let me see that I move from there. No, I'm still there. Let's get to it. So once again, 18-year-old, he's got the admin privileges for AWS and the Google platform, right? So the New York Times reported that the ride-hailing sharing app business has taken multiple internal systems, including the Slack, offline, while it investigates the breach, right? And we're going to talk about that after reading the article. What should you do from an incident response standpoint? How could you have stopped it in AWS? Shout out to Savage Scientist. You shouldn't be hard coding username, passwords, and tokens and PowerShell scripts, right? All those are no-nos, right? So why is Uber a billion-dollar company? Seems like they have no security standards, right? So we're gonna get into more pieces of that. When contacted, a spokesman for the company declined to answer additional questions and pointed to the statement. We're currently responding to a cybersecurity incident. We're in touch with law enforcement and will post additional updates here as they become available. So you went out there, you can see uh, their Twitter account, what they put on there. And this is the cool part that I really like right here. So hopefully you can see. I might make it a little bigger. Let's see. I might put that in another tab. So yeah, let's see. So yeah, so on the Twitter, the 18-year-old said, I announced I'm a hacker and Uber has suffered a data breach. It says the Slack has been stolen, confidential data with Confluence, Stash, and 2 mine repos from Fabricator also has been stolen along with secrets from the sneakers, right? So that's the team like teasing them in the organization, right? He's tweeting stuff back at them, right? The hacker appears to have made themselves known to Uber employees by posting a message on the company's internal Slack, right? Everybody's using Slack or Discord, even internally, right? So I guess the kid posted in there, I announced I'm a hacker and Uber has suffered a data breach. Circulating on the Twitter red. They claimed the hacker listed confidential company information that they said accessed and posted hashtag saying that Uber underpays its driver, right? So that hashtag to me is a kind of a big statement. Hashtag Uber underpays its driver. And we're gonna get in that, right? That's more of a hacktivist thing, right? I'm not trying to get you for the money. I'm trying to do something for society and the betterment of people, right? He's person stating that Uber underpays his driver, right? So he's trying to do some society. It's not look like he's asking for ransomware, right? So he's trying to make a national statement, embarrass Uber, and hopefully get the drivers a couple more dollars, right? So that's from a cybersecurity perspective. And I do I used to do a lot of cybersecurity proposed hacks. That's one thing. What type of organization is it? Is it one person? Is it a group of people attacking Uber? Right. So that's one thing you got to figure out as a company. So for me, that's a clue, right? He's not talking about ransomware, get me paid. He stated the Uber underpays his drivers, right? So once again, from a cybersecurity perspective, that lets you know, okay, he's a hacktivist. He seems to be not trying to get all this money or ransomware money, right? Or hold the company hostage or something, right? So read a couple of these. Oh, got to get over to the other. Got too many screens up. People, you must be feeling a little young this week. I am. I'm feeling a little better, man. I'll be 55 this year, man. I'm feeling a little, as my mom used to say, I'm feeling a little spry today. Feeling a little spry. If it was smart, they would warn him, monitor him, and put him in an internship to see how he did it to help defend to defend better. You are correct, Xavier, but the problem is he went to embarrass the company. When you start posting stuff on Slack, right, and putting stuff on Twitter, right, you trying to embarrass the company. If you embarrass me, Xavier, I'm not offering you a job. It's different. I've actually seen we called him a gray hat. I was on the client side. He actually got in the system and sent the CISO a nice email stating these are the things wrong. And he kind of showed what needed to be fixed in there, right? So they were actually thinking about giving that guy internship, Xavier, because he made us aware. He, highlighted a couple things that were missing. We were scrambling to see if it was for real. But once again, Xavier, he didn't try to embarrass anybody or embarrass the company, right, when he did it. So, but once again, he's hashtag saying Uber underpays his driver. So, and like I said, we got some slides we're going to go after this article to pinpoint a couple things. So for me, that's an activist, right? Not a mafia, not a nation state, not a group of individuals, right? A person trying to make a statement for society and economics as a whole. Yeah, forgot the insult. Facts, Xavier. You can't be insulting people that ask for a job. Shout out to that. see, Xavier, we learn a lot on my channel. No, I'm just playing. So if you're gonna try to hack them and get a job, you can't insult them. The Slack message from the alleged hacker was so brazen that many of the Uber employees initially thought it was a joke. Xavier, it was so brazen. The Uber's like, dude, this dude can't be serious. It's a joke. The employee's response to the post included lighthearted emojis like sirens and popcorn, as it's happening, Jeff, one unnamed Uber employee told the labs that the staff was interacting with the hacker thinking they were playing a joke, right? He was so brazen, Xavier, and egotistical. The people in the company's like, oh man, that's somebody internal plan, man. Who gonna announce I'm the hacker, right? So yeah, you gotta be a little more easy on that. You gotta be a little more easy. Shout out to JM, definitely one of my day ones. Let's see what I'm missing. Why the hackers commit these crimes, given long prison terms, was usually fines. Hackers are getting bigger fines. I think what's going to help this guy if he gets caught, it's not like he's not asking for ransomware. He didn't encrypt any drives. He's not ransomware. He's not attacking the company. He's not really making them lose money. It sounds like the money they're losing is right trying to track him down, but it's not like he's stopping operations or anything from that standpoint. So I don't think his fine, I don't think they would arrest him and give him a huge fine. Currently, right now, it's kind of more of a joke thing. And a lot of times, what makes me mad is he could probably go with the white hat hacker saying, I showed you these vulnerabilities. I didn't do anything. I'm trying to help you as a company. Jam, I'm old and grumpy. So when you set foot in my network, you are a nation state to me. You are a criminal. Now, if you scan some stuff and send me some vulnerabilities, we cool. You're in my network now, right? So now I got to spend resources. We're going to go over an incident response exercise at the end. We're going to get a little technical, but what does that look like when you're on site? I've been on site when that stuff happens. You're scrambling, right? So now I got to contact AWS. I got to contact Google. And we're going to talk about that. I do work with the IRS. As soon as this guy sends out something, if that's inside my network, I got to let the IRS know. He could possibly spill tax data. So different organizations. If you were in Cali, you got to let the California state general attorney know within an hour if you breach, right? So it depends on what you're doing with that, JM. I think currently right now, I think he'll be okay because you can go on a white hat hacker. But I've been in those rooms. They're scrambling, man. So here it's sorry to be a stick in the mud, but I think it would be appreciated less means why they held the breach. One employee responded to the hacker. So the hacker social engineered an employee, logged into their VPN and scanned their intranet, right? So when you say social engineering, I think they trick somebody and giving somebody a password or a token. Usually it's a password. Somebody said, we're part of IT. We need your password to look at your account or your machine, right? Apparently, this was an internal network share that contained power scripts. One of the power script contains username and password for an admin user in Thycotic, using that it was able to extract secrets for all services, their DA, one login, AWS, Google Suite. So we're going to get in there too, because on Blue Team, there's hardly anything. Number one, you shouldn't have, I believe these are anonymous shares. Anonymous network shares. That's why the hacker was easily able to move around, right? So I think that was one of the problems. We know we shouldn't. Shout out to savage scientists. We can't be hard coding username and password in PowerShell scripts. That's right off the bat, right? And two is we need to be scanning for those so we know they're existing, right? So I was going to reach out to you about this. I appreciate that, Gail, at night. So you're getting alive on it right now. So those are, and we're going to talk about that. Like I said, I did a couple PowerPoints. I taught for 10 years at a local community college, so I love to do PowerPoints. So basically, the Uber had a network share. They show the network share. Looking at the end, I believe that's anonymous share, meaning once you get on there, you click on it, it automatically authenticates you, right, for your username and password, which is cool until the rogue user gets it, right? So now he can easily transfer your drives. And let's see if he did ransomware, the ransomware going to hit that network share and just start encrypting anything. I am back, and I argue with this with our development team all the time. You cannot use shares. You cannot use. If you need to move files between two hosts, two drives, you need to secure copy it with keys on both sides, right? So when you get initiated, that keys is in there. Shout out to Before the Billions. I was just talking about you, man. That's my man. I think he did a 30-hour live stream. I help him a little bit, but I'm too old. I go about 3 hours is my max, man. Anything over 3, I got to give it to the young guys like Before the Billions, man. I'm not about that. You should go ahead, man. You need to talk about it too, because You a data engineer, I'm security, so we're gonna do it a little different. Let me know when you talk about it. I'll come over and support you. My man before the billion is gonna go over the article. We're gonna go see him when he do his too. So, but once again, let's see what they were talking about. The Google Suite. So basically, once again, my man is a data engineer. He got promoted. I'm cybersecurity. So before the billions try to use shares on Windows, I gotta pull up on him, man. We can't use shares, especially if they're anonymous, right? We got to make sure we authenticate those and make sure we make it harder for the bad people, right? When the PowerShell once again have the username and password, we cannot hard code passwords in corn shell scripts, PowerShell scripts. I've seen it in Java. I've seen it in pretty much everything, right? And on Uber IP range, right? Once again, that's GCP and AWS in the Uber intranet. So they show you how you get access to the intranet. Then the employee said access the VPN and scan the intranet. Once you get on there, you can easily scan the internet. And most of the times, depending on how you scan, if you do an Nmap and skip a couple IPs, they won't pick you up, right? So, but the problem is, and we're going to talk about that. I think that's my first slide is when I VPN to a corporate network, the second thing, because I'm VPN, lets you know security is a paramount, right? Security is high. It's encrypted. But when I VPN, I'm an MFA. So as soon as you VPN, it's gonna call my phone. I'm gonna do a RAS card. I'm gonna use a Google token. So there should be two factors. So even though that person stole that, even though the hacker stole the person's VPN password, without the MFA, the hacker shouldn't be able to get in. So you know right there that Uber security's crap. Because most of y'all, when I VPN, the next thing I got to get my phone out, right? Accept it. I'll get my RAS card. Got to put my Google token in. So that lets you know they're not using MFA on the VPN, right? So somebody should be getting fired immediately, right? So let's see. Salute to my two favorite people, Gail at Night and Before the Billions. Let's see. I'll be doing it in my Black Man Tech. Yes. Let me know when, man. Shoot me and me. I need to go subscribe to Before the Billions. Put your Black Man Tech channel in the chat. You got a wrench? Yeah, you got a wrench. Put your Black Man Tech channel in there so we can come subscribe to it. Let's see what my man Neo Mouse. What's up? Yeah, what's good, B2B? Shout out. Oh, Gail's already on top of it. Shout out to Gail, the best moderator. Only thing should be hard coded is enum fields. Facts. Especially in AWS. AWS has a whole secret service. You put it in there, it's going to encrypt it, put it in an AES encryption, going to give you a hash, then you pull it out, and it automatically decrypts it for you. Especially on AWS, we're going to look at that service too as part of the slideshow. We're going to get a little technical at the end. You know, this is the entertainment part. Then we're gonna get technical at the end. So the hacker claimed that the NYT to be a 18-year-old, the breached Uber for fun and is considering leaking company source code. If he leaks that company source code, that's when he's gonna get big time, right? Because that's probably $1 billion worth of intellectual property. So when you start leaking, whoever's cool with this dude, tell him to leave that source code alone. He gonna start, because you leak his source code, they're gonna give you at least a decade. Even at 18, I think you're gonna get big times because that's billions of dollars of intellectual property. Now we're not playing. When you talk about leaking source code, we have a problem, right? So in a conversation with the researcher, Leo, they also claim to have gained access to the Uber systems through login credentials obtained from social engineering, which allowed them to access the internal company VPN. And we start doing it. It's a weird concept. Even though we in our internal network, when you go to certain VPNs to get to backend databases, backend servers, Thycotic to get passwords to share, you got a MFA, even if you're in a corporate company network, because of things like this. That's a privileged user, right? So when you're dealing with privileged users or a privileged process or a privileged service, you got to put extra security on that. So even if you're an internal network, when you VPN to that certain subnet, you got an MFA in, right? So that lets you know that Uber is not doing basic security stuff, right? So where we are, they also claim to gain access to login from the social media, which allowed them to internal access through the company VPN. That's what we're talking about. When you VPN, that tells you you're doing an encrypted resource to a valuable resource, or you would just log in without VPN. From there, they found the PowerShell scripts on the Uber intranet company accessing management credentials that allow them to access the AWS and the Google Suite account, right? So, and once again, we're gonna hit the slideshow. You VPN, you should have MFA. PowerShell scripts, right? You should never hard code any credentials in there. Two is it gave you access to management credentials, right? So they let you know that's a high privilege users. Those are managing credentials, so you got to treat them differently, right? So those three statements right there let you know Uber was not taking the proper security needed for whatever their process was doing, or that user is a high privilege user, right? Our DBAs, when they come in, they're high privilege users. You get right to the database. Uh, Before the billions is a engineer, right? He's a data engineer, data scientist. He's setting up the queues and the path for the data flows and moving between two boxes. So we know B2B can transfer or transmit or go between high privileged boxes. So his accounts got to be treated as a privileged user. MFA, secure copy, assuming roles. Even when he do the roles to do his work, they should only last for 4 hours, right? So if somebody gets his account and after the 4 hours, they wouldn't be able to do admin work, right? And once again, we're gonna touch on that at an end. But this person, hacker, all the resources he took as a privileged user, and Uber didn't take security seriously for that user, right? In that process and what that person did. So this is a total compromise from what it looks like. Curry said NYT. It seems like maybe this kid got into Uber and doesn't know what to do with it and is having the time of his life, right? Right. So yeah, he usually when you attack a company, you get in, you have a plan, right? Uber moves probably what 10, maybe $100 million in a day with people taking cab rides around the world, right? So if you start taking some of those payments and move them into an offshore account before anybody knows, right? Or you just take the whole bank file, right? Because they're taking that credit file, and once they get charged, right? So you charge an account, or now you got a whole lot of credit cards you can sell, right? So there should have been at least 10 things that person had set up if he brought in the Uber, if he was a hacker trying to make money, right? So ransomware it, I'm holding the company hostage, I'm taking all the pay files, right? So once again, it's a lot of things you could be doing with it. Let's see what my man. I have to do that at my job. When I asked the VP, he sent me a message. See, John, this John knows, man. See, so yeah, so they're not even doing that, John. So they let you know their securities is somebody's getting fired today. Before the billions. Shout out to that. Everybody go subscribe to my man Before the Billions. Get his Black Man Tech channel up. Do you think it's a disadvantage to have an easy access resources like Try Hack Me, where people, including teenagers, can pay a small fee? No, JM. I just think it's a learning curve, and I think it's helping people get the bag. I know where you're going. I think you might get an uptick in hacking, even for fun, but I think most people who are bad is going to do bad shit, and most people who are good are going to do good shit. And there's probably a small 5% of gray area that if they think they can get still 100 million, they might do it, JL. So no, I don't think. I think Try Hack Me is a great service. I think it's helping the community. I think it's getting people in IT. I think Red Team is definitely a place to start to get in IT. I'm trying to get Struggle Security, Alpha Cyber, and some more of the offensive guys. Is we should be starting teams and getting those bounties, right? If we get the money, cool. If we don't get the bounty, we're learning. So that's a way to get young people into cybersecurity and the technology, because you can put stuff like that on your resume. There's always company says this is your area you can go try to get it. Even if you don't get stuff, you're trying, you're learning. When people get stuff, a lot of times they share it, so you learn those techniques so you can win next time. So no, Jam, I think Try Hack Me is a great service. Once again, I think you might get a small uptick in people trying to do criminal stuff, but most of the things I think this is going to help for the good. So once again, let's just hit the top, then we go to the slides. There's a few things. Once again, they were brazen. They were joking. People thought they were fake. Uh, and the original thing, and I put it on the slide, is right here. This is the thing. Hashtag saying that he wants Uber underpays their driver. Once again, I think that's more of a hacktivist thing. I don't think that's malicious. Until you're gonna dump the source code. I think you need to ease up there, brother. So let's look at some of the slides I did. I just kind of looked at it from a security analyst standpoint. What organizations I've been part of, and what things we talked about, the things we think Uber is missing on their security. Like John said, when you VPN, you got an MFA. So if the person even stole your password, once they're VPN, if they don't have your phone, they cannot connect to the resources to get the management credentials out of the PowerShell, right? So that lets you know we know uh, Uber's lacking in some of their security. Even with the insult, I will still be highly impressed. But that's just oh no, just Xavier, you're 100% correct. I would be impressed. I just wouldn't hire you. Those are two separate things, Xavier. Right? We're gonna split those up. I'm old and grumpy, especially if I'm on a security team. You can't embarrass me and ask for a job. I can be impressed and not hire you, Xavier. I can do two things, man. We can do two things at once. Let me know, Xavier, what you think of that. I could be impressed and not hire you, right? So let's get it. So yes. So once again, we're gonna hit it. Throw any questions in the box. I've been doing that. So go check out this video. I actually did an incident response. NIST is federal compliance for blue team for government work. So I said, so we're gonna actually go to an incident, like if that's actually happened and we were on a security team, what that would look like in real life, right? So we're gonna go through those steps so you can see what happens in real life, because we did a video last night about the electric grid going down, right? People were struggling with this. When you're in the federal space, they say you have to practice an incident response once a year on a federal system, right? Why? So when stuff like this happens, you know what to do. And we'll go to some of the high points that when you're on a federal system, who you need to notify, how you need to do it, how you need to lock out those accounts, right? So we're just going to touch on those. We talked about this. The hacker appears to me, and I highlight that posted hashtag saying the Uber underpays its driver. So if we're in the room, we call it the war room. First thing we're saying is, top, I think that's a hacktivist. I don't think he's going to encrypt our disk. I don't think he's going to hold us hostage, right? So we're going to think a little differently now, right? So if it's a nation state or a mafia or a hacktivist or a script kiddie, right? So you got to kind of rate what kind of bad actor, that's my friend, my ex-boss favorite, bad actor favorite term is, right? So we think we're dealing with a hacktivist, so we're going to move a little different, right? So let's see. That's true. Shout out to Xavier. So Uber sometimes takes 50% off the total cost of the fare. Oh yeah, they're greedy. They're greedy. They're greedy. Yeah, we're gonna talk about this another thing. They broke all kind of federal laws and they let them do it. So we talk about that. If you guys reverse engineer the source code, you have a treasure trove of exploits. Not for this guy, Caleb. This guy just did a social engineering. He just for this particular person, he made somebody give him their password. Well, I know what you're talking about. If you're doing one of the bug bounties, but yeah, depending on this, if the guy reversed, oh no, that is true. I just got that, Caleb. No, you're correct. I don't think he needs to be honest, because I don't know if you got here late. He got the administrative password, so he can see the code already. He don't need to reverse engineer it. He's got the code to go through it. He can actually put that code, and we're gonna go over it. It's called Code Whisper on Amazon. You put it in that, it'll tell you where all the keys are at and where all the vulnerabilities is. Caleb, it's not encrypted. He's got the original source code. Some cities are countries. Oh yeah, facts. A lot of cities won't let Uber take people to the airport. So and when you hit the facts, Calvin, 100%. even though in there we should be training our users, right, with awareness training. That's the first thing we teach you in security awareness training is watch for the fish. And if you're not sure, call the people back on the company number, right? If you don't know this person, right? So no, you're right. So the crazy thing is we train people more than ever and they still fall forward. So that's one of the other crazy parts. Happy TGIF. Shout out to Kevin. Happy Friday, family. I got to get a cool name for my people, like before the billions. I got to come up with something clever. This is the part we talked about right here that's perplexing me, right? When you VPN, I'm assuming since they're on PowerShell, everybody's doing Active Directory. I don't know if Radius, it could be Amazon's MFA, it could be Google's MFA. But as soon as you hit that VPN, you should be hitting the MFA service to dial your phone, your RAS card, your Google token. Something should be getting MFA'd on that. So that's the number one thing we know was lacking with Uber, right? So we need to come up with a business proposal to help Uber. Picnic problem in the chair, not in the computer. Facts. Man, training people to voice it's a wax to me. Want to know how they like you facts on that, Calvin. Facts, but from a federal perspective, we got to do it. But no, you're right. We trained people on stuff, then we sent them a fake phishing email the next day. People were still clicking on stuff, Calvin. So I understand what you say. Yeah, I understand what you said. Chill out together at night. Please be sure to click the like button. We appreciate that. So once again, when you VPN, you definitely have, even if it's internal. I was probably over the last 6 years, a buddy of mine, he's actually a security architect, and we were talking about that on a project. And it was just kind of weird the first time I did it. I'm inside a company, I VPN, and I have to MFA because usually MFA is for when you coming inside the network. But when you dealing with high privileged users, shout out to before the billions, right? You are DBA, TAM, women in Linux, right? Those are the things you need to do to make sure those services are secure, those boxes are secure, right? For that particular user, right? Now we're talking about what? Zero trust, right? Now we're going to touch on that later. I did about 3 videos, but this is part of zero trust, right? Your machine, you, and your session, right, are 3 different ways to authenticate and do authorization somebody on zero trust, right? For micro segmentation into what you're logging into, especially from an Amazon VPC perspective, right? So my man JM said he probably hijacked himself. Like, look at this. You making up stuff, JM, but no, that could happen, right? But the cool thing about that though is even if that happens, people live with their phone. So if your phone missing, the first thing you'll do, call the office and be like, somebody took my phone. So you don't have to just lock down my accounts till I figure my phone out, right? So, but that's the thing right there that makes the phone so powerful, JM, is people go nuts when you can't find your phone, right? So that lets you know, office, I need you to lock down my accounts till I find my phone, right? So let's see what can. Did that with me. Sent me a phishing email. I knew it was phishing. I clicked it. I felt it. I never clicked on stuff. Facts. So yeah, I never. One guy on the security team clicked on him. Man, we killed him for a month. Man, security, you can't file for the phishing when you're in security, man. So we kill that guy. So we have the opposite problem at work, Calvin. We do such a good job. We got people not doing work because they're still to click on stuff. They call security. Is this email legitimate? So, which is cool. So we get people being late at work. I didn't want to click on it. So you can't overtrade people. I actually like that way to the other way. So we have the other problem when at my other client, we were so hard on them. People be scared to click on stuff. I used to tell my big boss, she was cool. I said, we just need to fire one person a year. Everybody else will be in line, Calvin. You fire one person a year. We can't get people to do work now. I was scared to click on the email, right? So they scared it's phishing. So let's get at it, right? So we're going to go through a tabletop exercise. It's a security incident preparedness activity. Takes participants through a process of dealing with a simulated incident, providing hands-on training. Most companies are underprepared for cyber attack incident response plan. So we're just going to talk about it. Oh, what's up? Tiny CL's in the house. So he's definitely one of those guys in the federal space doing tabletop exercise, incident response exercises. So definitely a CISP guy. I'm gonna have to get him on my channel. He got the big CISP. I need to take a deep breath and get back on that journey again. But I don't know. I'm old. I might give up. But shout out to CL for being in the house. So we're gonna go through the incident response for the AWS for that particular teenager, right? So we got identity IAM, which will have the MFA in it, right? We know Uber was missing the MFA. We got to make sure we logging infrastructure protection, data protection, and incident response, right? So you want to practice these before this happens, right? So you won't be surprised, right? So the feds make you, practice this. So incident response, like I said, I'm just gonna go through the high level. Check that video out. It's in my videos. You can just search for it if you want. So you got your technical team, your executive sponsor, your incident responders, communication coordinators, forensic analysis, external consultant, and legal representation, right? I'm sorry, legal representative, right? So why would you have legal in a room? A lot of times, depending on where we do business, we got to report to the general attorney. Sometimes certain compliances want you to report in 24 hours or 48 hours, right? Is this actually a breach? We had it in our network, but it was on a different box, right? That's actually breach versus spillage, right? But sometimes you want to get legal in there to make sure it's not a breach and it's just spillage, right? So you want to get legal in there to make sure you're not doing anything out there. Shout out, I'm not going to say any names, but one of my favorite persons getting that forensics on. So I told them if they need anything from me, I got a forensics playlist. I sent them to the person, so hopefully that helps them. And two is incident responders and forensic analysts. I don't have that skill set, right? So I can look at it and say, oh, it looks like a breach. Oh, this VM looks like somebody being in, but I'm going to reach out to a specific forensic analyst to take that on. So when you're a big company, you have engagements with those other companies. So if something happens, we're like, okay, we're going to call this company. We need to get a forensic analyst in there to figure out if we've been hacked, right? I have some of those skills, but if I mess up, I don't want to get personally schooled. So I look and say, it looks funny, right? Get forensic people in here, right? Incident responders, right? I'm not going to go inside of, shout out to Keep It Techie, a Linux VM, start looking at the logs and figure out if they're hiding stuff in the space and they put it in there, delete it, but the data's in there because they deleted the pointers, right? You need a forensic analyst, right? Or incident responder to help you do that. I don't do that, right? So I know what my lane is, but those are some of the people in your incident response or third-party people you need to have on deck, right? If you need to actually do a full forensic investigation like Uber has to do now, right? They don't know what this kid changed, what this kid delete. Did he leave some time bombs where after his leave, it's going to start dropping servers, right? So you got to figure out where this kid did, what he touched, and what he went into, right? So that's where you get your incident response teams in. And that's when you need to practice that, right? Let's see. One day one day can you share MFA hacks that involve hardware MFA versus yeah. I've actually got one on my channel. If you do I think it was called the Golden. I'll find one for you, Calvin. Shout out to Michael. But yeah, so once again, you need to practice with your incident response team. Have all those people lined up. So when something happens, you know who to call. Oh, we don't do forensics. Who should we call? You're going to look in the yellow pages don't exist anymore. You're going to Google it and try to find some people. Right? You need to have those people lined up. And a lot of the bigger companies, I'm talking about billion-dollar companies like Google, AWS, they have those people on staff. If not, they have retainers with FireEye. Microsoft has one of the top teams. So there's companies that specializes. They put those guys on retainer. The reason why a lot of times there's a nation state and 10 big companies get hacked. If you got them on a retainer, they're going to come to you first, right? So a lot of times if you in that with big money, you want to have all those resources lined up, right? Before you start getting on them, right? So that kid will be giving out free ride. Shout out to the free ride. Shout out to Princess A, the original. Hey, you. Glad to see you. So But once again, you got to get your team, and I'm gonna do a couple of those online. I'm gonna get B2B, shout out and a couple other people, Citizen Lou, Savvy Scientists, and we're gonna actually walk through incident response for each one of our areas, right? And what that looks like, right? Because I've been involved in it, but when you first do it, man, it's kind of overwhelming. I've been in hacks where people never practice, and now you try to figure out, okay, what do we do? Who do we call? What are we responsible for? Right? It could be crazy. Cost of doing business. Why then would you have them on retainer? Facts, facts. But most people don't put people on retainer, Calvin, so they're struggling, right? You know what you do? That's when you put them on retainer. But now Calvin's got. But these are some of the cross teams as incident response team. All right, we got to talk to other incident response teams, internet service providers, incident reporters, law enforcement. Sometimes you got to reach out to the vendor, right? Are there software packages? Is this a known vulnerability? How do we handle? Then customers, constituents, and media, right? So, like, if Uber didn't know and this got posted, now everybody's calling Uber, right? That's what they're saying. We're gonna get back with you, right? A lot of bigger companies, they actually have a media team or communications team pre-set up with scripts already written about what they're going to say and who they're going to say it. And I worked in certain organizations. If they got hacked, they tell employees, you do not say anything. You direct them to the communications team, right? So you want everybody to be on one page and what they need to do, right? So I always joke. I just be like, you got to see communications. I don't know what's going on, right? And this right here, if you're AWS like me, AWS, big at the top is what customers are responsible for and what AWS is responsible for. So, did your app just get hacked, or did AWS networking get your app hacked? Right. So we got to figure out who's responsible for what. So the customer is responsible for what's in the cloud, and the AWS is responsible for what's of the cloud. Right. Meaning routers and all that stuff that could get you hacked, that'll cause your app to get hacked. Right. So in an incident response, who's responsible for what pieces, right? So, and this is the scenario I did on my other one. It just happens to match this one. An administrative user accidentally exposed their access key ID, their secret access keys to a public support form. It wasn't a public support form. He tricked them, but the keys are in his public, possession, right? The user notified the security team about the incident after removing the exposed credentials. What should you do? The first two things you need to do from an AWS perspective, right, is invalidate your temporary security keys and delete your access key ID and your secret access code, right? Meaning, so he can't run anything any further or take advantage of that, right? Create a second access key and modify the application to use the new key. Disable the old access key and check the applications working correctly before deleting the old one, right? Some of these keys, you can't delete them until you transfer to the new one. If you delete the old one without transferring, the app cannot be used anymore, right? So that's why I put that in red. You got to know the app, right? So that's why you practice. And we'll talk a little bit. A run book is, if this box get hacked, what do you need to do for this particular application, right? It'll be 90% the same, but you need your run book, so you'll have information like this in the run book, right? So you're not scrambling. This happened to this book. What's my run book, and what do I need to do for that particular app on that particular server in that particular cloud, right? These are some of the questions you asked. Does your organization currently have policies that a third-party cloud storage? Should your organization be held accountable for the data breach? A lot of organizations, for certain data breaches, especially in California, you will be fined, right? Everybody does the standard give them credit monitoring, right? So if you got 3 million records and you give them $100 of credit monitoring for each record, that's $300 million, right? That's why cybersecurity people get paid, right? So if you make a little mistake, you got 3 million records time $100 per credit monitoring for a year. That's $300 million, right? So you can easily start racking your bill up, and that's $300 million. We ain't fixed one red thing. That's just for credit monitoring. We ain't figured out what happened. We ain't passed anything. We ain't paid the state fine. That's just for credit monitoring, right? Who owns the local area network? What should management do? Do you tell your constituents? How do you notify them? So if Uber happens, right, and they start getting people credit cards, how would new Uber notify them? They could probably send you a text message on the phone through their app, right? But if you just got a regular app, you need to figure out how you would notify people that got hacked. What's up, Black Dove? Glad you can make it. Uh, Threat actor external, that would be the kid, right? Access impacted. We talked about the cloud. These are the CIS checks, STIG checks of what you think you would be in violation of and things you need to start patching or doing from a compliance standpoint. Right. So this is the response team. This is just a standard AWS setup. Right. So you got your public, private, something. So the question is, which part of these areas did the kid get into, and which data did he get into? Right. At the bottom is the database. Right. So if you got the admin keys, and I think he posted stuff, he got into the database, so he was here. So if you got from here to here, everything probably is up for grabs, and he could get anything. He could get into anything he wanted to, right? So you need this kind of schematics to figure out, okay, what is the particular act doing? How is it then? This is how I look. How did he get through it? What did he touch? He got into the database, right? Because he had the master credentials, right? Access keys and the access code, right? So from a response team, the technical side of that, right? We need to know what this looks like. And from this is AWS, the user at the top, you could go in the AWS console, put the user ARN, that's the ID for, and it'll tell you, look at the bottom, what the user could get into, right? What access permissions could that particular user, right? Because he social engineered somebody, got their credentials. We put those credentials, go on Access Visor in AWS. Okay, they can get an S3 bucket and do an identity manager and change their password, right? This person, though, since it was admin, I'm sure he had a lot more service he could get into. But the first thing is delete those credentials, go into Access Advisor. What services could that person got into and start infiltrating stuff out of, right? And also part of Amazon is the policy simulator. Once again, you put the selected user up there, and it tells you from a EC2 or any services if they could get into them or not. The red means that user could get into them. So, but you can. I should have sorted it by green. It'll show you what services they can get into, and these will show you what each individual Linux box they could get into or not, right? So it tells you if it denies or cannot, right? Now we starting to put a scope around the stuff we need to look at, right? Because we just hired our forensics people. Shout out to my favorite person getting that forensic thing. We bring them out, right? Then we can tell them what possible things a person could touch, right? Because if you don't know, you're gonna spend a ton of more money if you can't put a circle around. These are the things the person has access to, right? For this particular users and this credentials, this is what the person have access to. If the person's got to look at your organization, right? The bill, it's just ding, 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 right? It's going up, right? If you're a tight organization, you should be able to put a scope around what that user could get into. Now, once they start getting into it, it can show them probably up in their privileges, doing privilege escalation. But at least you started somewhere to narrow it down. They don't have to look at everything, right? So this is invalidating temporary credentials. AWS, you just put this policy on them. It just says deny everything, action, what services they can do, what resources can they do, deny everything, right? So that user is locked out and can't do anything, right? Once you figure it out. Now that user could have escalated their privilege to another user, but if they didn't, they would be theoretically locked out. Right now, we getting our forensics people in there. They're gonna start digging into it. So, CloudWatch is just logs that shows access, input, and output of certain movement, where you went to, if you secure a copy or SSH, right? That'll be in your CloudWatch logs, right? So that's why you want to cut logging on and most everything you can, because when you get hacked, the logs are going to tell you what they went into, right? So your database logs, your Docker logs, Lambda, EC2, Linux, all those logs are in CloudWatch. And the cool thing about that is only a different system administrator could get into those logs, right? Because the bad guy's trying to delete logs, right? So we're gonna put this on a different box, different credentials, different region, even in the United States, right? So now we can get to the dashboard, start running reports to say, okay, this user started on these boxes. Did they log in as another user? Did they try to upgrade their privileges, right? Did they move between boxes? We have the logs to figure that out. Without the logs, you're just guessing, right? So that's why we try to make sure we get our log game up. CloudTrail is logging, but it does APIs, right? So not moving between the boxes, me calling a different service, right? Me calling an outside external person, right? Because a lot of times when a hacker gets into your organization, you have touch points to other organizations where you have passwords to other organizations, right? To move files, pay people. They can go from your organization to a different organization. You, as a responsible company, you got to let all those companies and services know that they could possibly be breached, right? So, as part of your cloud log study and pulling that out, you got to let those companies know, because if those companies get hacked and you didn't tell them and they figured out it came from you, they're going to sue you, right? Even if they like you, they're going to sue you. They have to sue you, right? So that's why you're talking about CloudWatch and CloudTrail. You need to go through those logs to check your external touch points. And one of the things too I should have put in there, from that user, we need to know our external touch points. We need to lock those down until we figured out what happened. We don't want anybody else to get hacked, because now we could be liable as a company if something got them hacked and we caused it by a hacker. So we got to let them know ASAP, right? So once again, CloudTrail, these are a lot of the services. You want all those going into your CloudTrail. And so you can look at the logs, send out emails, and keep track of that, right? So that's one of the things too, is communications with your external parties, right? Especially when you're talking about big companies, big bags, they're usually, like Uber's probably connected to a few credit card companies, I'm sure marketing companies, satellite companies to keep track of where the car is, right? You got to let all those people know, right? And two is, before we figure it out, I will let them know immediately, right? Especially the big partners, we are reviewing something. We think we're okay, but we're just letting you know, right? Let's see. I'm reading a couple of these messages. See JM on me. With that log service, it would be difficult for an APT to survive there. With the log service, that's a good. I'm laughing because I'm thinking about that. I would say no, because most people, even if they're logging, they're not very good about tracing their logs. So there's APTs been in companies for a year that are large and the logs didn't catch them, because what the APT was smart enough to do is it didn't move super aggressively, right? It kind of moved the same way the user were moving, right? So if the APT is not doing something super aggressive, you're not going to catch them. Now the script kiddie and low level guys, they're going to go right from the web server and try to steal all the credit cards to the database. And APT, you got to go from the web server to the app server, right? You got to sit on there, catch a service that's moving a file to the database and jump on it. So I would say no, because I'm putting an APT JM at the top of the food chain. So they know how to move to not cause a lot of investigation. They're not gonna make a lot of alarms to go off, right? So I would say no, because I put APT at a different level, at the top of the Maslow pyramid of hacking, right? So they know how to move to not make those logs, look suspicious. Enough money makes liability disappear. Oh, facts. And the cool thing is, a lot of liability disappear because people just getting cybersecurity insurance, right? The liability doesn't disappear, Calvin. You just pay for it, right? You're not scared of it, right? So I always laugh when I see Facebook get a $200 million fine. That's a quarter worth of profit for them, right? That's sock money for those guys. When you talk about finding J.P. Morgan, Google, right? You always see Google getting fined $200 million in Ireland because they're not doing privacy right. Google's like, dude, that's sock change for us, right? So now you're right. It doesn't disappear. You just You just give them a handshake with the 100 million in the hand, Calvin. That's all. No, but you're right, and that's why those big companies don't. They're not scared because they got resources, right? We always talk about resources in here, right? So that you're a high value company, right? If you got resources, right? They got resources, right? So this right here is automation, and we're gonna do a little bit of this. I keep talking. I gotta start doing a little more. Shout out to Seven Scientists and Before the Billion. So if that hacker touch this a Linux box instance, right? We're gonna make a copy. See below is the copy, forensic copy of that. We're gonna take that offline. We're gonna put the volume snapshot in the S3 bucket. We're gonna recreate it in another subnet in our organization. So when the forensics people come in, we could tell them we know the hacker's been on this Linux box. It's already set up for you to do your initial intake. Because a lot of times they want to go somewhere, see where the hacker went, see where the hacker moved, see if there's malware on it, right? So we got this forensics box set up, right? Shout out to Struggle Security, Gabe. His company does that for a living. I don't want to fly those guys out to my organization and we're not ready, right? Because as soon as they get on the plane, I'm getting a bill, right? So I want to have my stuff set up, ready for when the forensic person sat down. I got them a forensic security group. I got them forensic Linux box. I got them access and they can start their forensics. And let's be real, you can do this remotely now, right? You can have them log in remotely, especially from Amazon. We give them an MFA with an S3 URL. So when they log in MFA, they can get in that forensic. They can start really doing their forensic stuff. The reason people want them guys to be on site is they pay them a lot of money. I mean, those guys, fire, I charge $250 an hour for a junior person, man. Practice managers be like $500 an hour. So when those guys sit down, my boss want me to have them dudes ready and working, right? Because them dudes charge a big money. So from like we talked about, from that we can make a copy of that isolated instance. We think we knew, right? We looked at that. It told us what EC2s were accessible. We looked in the logs. The logs told us this was the EC2. We made a forensic copy of it for them. A lot of times they don't like working on the original, right? In case they mess up, they can rebuild it from that, right? If you mess up the original, you can't rebuild. So I want to have a lot of this pre-set up. This is the this is the EC2 they went in. This is the S3 bucket we got a copy of. This is the database they were in, right? So we got copies. So we have a whole environment set up. So when they hit the ground, they're ready to go, right? We're ready to go. So hopefully we're going to make our bill a little smaller, right? So that's the incident response automation, right? You can automate all of this when you see the log file hit a button, it makes a copy of all that. Set up an environment ready for the forensic person to do their thing, right? Is loud change in the car for some of these companies messing up? It's loud change in the car for some. What's okay? I'm sure you like okay. It's like, oh yeah, it's like the change in the car for somebody coming. Oh, facts. Now you right. Yeah, this would be in your run book, JM. I'm glad you mentioned that. So yeah, part of your run book would be you hitting identifying the EC2. You hit the button. The run book really is automated scripts that's already running, right? We call it a run book so you can print them out. But I hit a button, it creates another subnet. The subnet creates a copy of the EC2 instance. The volume goes in the Snapchat. All that gets copied into another subnet. But you're right, that will be in the run book, right? So you would put the EC2 in there, click it, and I'm actually talk a little bit about that on Sunday at 3 is system manager in AWS. They have an automation section, and the automation section is stuff like this. You put your instance, it'll create a duplicate instance, duplicate volume, put it on a subnet, and put it in a forensic SG, so only a person with a certain IP address can actually log in and look at that EC2. So that's definitely in the runbook, JM. Thanks for that, man. So infrastructure overview, well architected, security overview, and a forensics OU, right? So OU's inside of Windows, kind of the same things inside AWS. So in my forensics OU, right? This is where the forensics people can only get in. I got my forensics environment. You saw the copy of that. That's going to be under this forensics OU somewhere, right? Where I'm going to have that EC2, the special security group. super lockdown. Up here, it just shows you super lockdown, who can get in and who can get out, right? So from an AWS infrastructure, especially from a forensic standpoint, this is kind of what it looked like, right? Got my production that got hacked. My security lets me look at my production. I probably only have read. Then my forensic lets me make that a copy of that EC2 over here and lock it down. So only the forensic people can look at that, right? Forensic region 1, 2, or 3, right? So if you work in a Fortune 500 company, they're gonna have multiple regions, right? You could be having hacks in multiple regions around the globe, right? So you got certain different regions where forensic people, hopefully you wouldn't get hacked multiple times, but if you do, you set up to handle that, right? I got my region 1 forensic environment, my region 3 forensic environment, right? So you can set up multiple environments. What's up, OG Patrice? So at a high level, once again, the run book help you do that. So a part of the run book will say, what's your production? What region do you want that copied to? Right. Once again, this is automation from the run book. So you got guard duty, automation roles. Like we said, shared account. Evidence bucket is we believe this log file got hacked or this EC2 got hacked, and here are the log files. We're going to put those in a special place. These are actually just a file system where you want to keep all the evidence for the hack, because for cybersecurity insurance, you gotta show evidence in how it hacks. If you're getting fined by Cali for GDPR, you gotta have evidence, right? So your fine won't be so big, so you won't be considered negligent, right? So the negligent could be log files, time when the person logged in, time when the person thought they got social engineering, times where you can show that user IP in 2 different locations, right? So you can kind of show those are probably 2 different people because their source IP address is different, right? So those are stuff you want to put in your evidence bucket. Because if it's a big enough hack like Equifax, they had to go in front of Congress, right? I always joke with my bosses, I'm never going in front of Congress. I will quit, right? I'm gonna give you your evidence and I'm up out of here. But the higher you get up and the bigger your company, you need that type of evidence. So if you get called in front of Congress or something big, right, you'll have documentation, to prove you were negligent, right? So once again, the reporting requirements, it could be state general attorney, Department of Homeland Security. I do a lot of IRS work. HSS is HIPAA, FERPA. Education is always getting hit. They report to FERPA, GDPR, privacy. I don't know why Cali does GDPR. So you got reporting requirements. Each state now has reporting requirements. If you get hacked, you got to go to that state general attorney you doing work. I think they want to get seen to get reelected. You got to lay that out. Indiana has one. They have reporting requirements. I'm in Indiana. Chicago has them. I definitely know Cali has them. So, greetings. Let's see. Two. Why don't these companies? We were just talking about that. My man Xavier said that. I think he would have got hired, OG Patrice, but he started insulting people. He started showing out, OG Patrice. I told him I would have hired him, but now he's trying to embarrass me, Patrice. He's putting stuff on the company website. He's showing out. So now I ain't hiring that little slide. If he would have just did something quietly and sent me an email, I might have hired him, OG. If you got to stay in your lane. My mom old term, he's smelling himself. OG, he was doing a little too much, so we can't hire him. Shout out to Xavier. We couldn't hire him. He was talking too much. He got me all embarrassed out on the news. No, Congress is not that. They have no clue what they're doing. That is true, Calvin. The problem is you're correct, but the problem is if you go back and look at Equifax, when they televise you and your stock price goes down half by half, go look at it, Calvin. He got fired because when you get on the news in Congress, even though they don't know what they're doing, your stock got cut in half. So just the embarrassment, like my homie did here, you gonna get fired. And I agree, they have no clue. But what happens is they have young people doing research. You were right. Most of the questions were basic, but when you're on TV sweating, then all their competitors said Equifax was negligent because what they got hacked on was pretty light. So they were getting killed in the media. Their stock price got cut in half. So if you causing the stock price to get cut in half, you done. you fired. So there's OG. She laughing. But yeah, we were talking about that. Check the replay out. Yeah, he was smelling himself. He was trying to embarrass us. So we can't hire him. So DevSecOps is how we put the code in. We're just going to touch on this a little bit. Once again, go check the video. So if you're a developer, shout out to Savage Scientist. You commit your code in there. Basically, it gets in production here. Here, if you look at the static analysis tool and dynamic, those are the ones should have saw that the PowerShell passwords were in the clear, right? So there's processes and services when you check your code, and they should be looking for something that looks like a username and password, something that looks like an access code, something that looks like token. That should be built into your process, especially when you're Uber and you're $1 billion company. This is basic stuff here. So when you check it into the code build and it builds it, it scans for certain stuff. They call it the OWASP top 10, SQL injection, command injection, cross-site scripting, SRF, right? So there's 10 things or 20 that should be basically getting scanned for those credentials to be in a PowerShell script and not get scanned and caught is negligent, right? So see what my man Calvin Henderson says. Congress just looks at ABC, Meta, Twitter. They were what's called social media company was not impacted. That's correct because those companies didn't get hacked. What they're trying to code with them, Calvin, is they don't like how they're doing the privacy of the United States. So they trying to code, they trying to put in laws and codify what they can do with your privacy, right? So they're selling what websites you go through. Facebook is selling that, right? When you put in your favorite liquor, like mine, I'm a vodka guy, right? So when I put vodka in my messenger, I get all those ads. They're selling my privacy to companies for money, right? Congress doesn't think they should do that. Those companies didn't get hacked. They're trying to make sure those companies adhere to the nation's privacy. That's why their stock didn't go down. No money pay fines, keep it pushing. No, facts. We talk money solves a lot of things. Money solves OG they did not have the experience. Facts. Well, they had enough experience to get in there. Hey, Professor Ty, shout out to Ty. Read your email. I hit you back, man. Baka, aka facts, man. I'm a Chopin guy. Chopin, Kettle One, probably Ciroc. Shout out to my man P Diddy, Ciroc. So once again, secret managers, that's where you put in your secrets that they had hard coded inside the PowerShell script. If you looked at the bottom, oh, I got the thing over it. I should make it bigger. My name's over it. But basically it says Amazon Code Guru finds hard coded secrets in Python, JavaScripts, and using Amazon Code Guru Reviewer, right? So basically it can find passwords in your code to help you, right? And if it finds it, it'll notify you where it's at, right? Hard-coded secrets review, Code Guru found it in this particular service, right? Gives you recommendations for other things, but for the password thing, it shows you where it believes you have those hard-coded passwords. So you send $1 billion and have no code scanning to find that, right? That's just so basic nowadays, right? So then once again, we're wrapping it up. So from a blue team perspective, I do STIG, CIS. So there's checks that at the top says Windows 20 server, since they were using PowerShells, I'm assuming in Windows, you must restrict anonymous names, pipes, and shares. Remember, they said they had shares. So blue team says you can't have those type of shares, right? So if you're doing basically basic application security, it tells you can't have shares, right? You cannot have anonymous access to name, pipes, or shares right there, right? So I just did a couple of these, right? Once again, anonymous logins for enumeration of shares, right? So just looking at that name of that share, I believe it was one of these types, right? And it tells you from a security, it's a high. So that means you got to fix it now. You got to fix this within 30 days. So if they were doing any kind of compliance checking or any kind of hardening, the basic hardening says, this is the last one, you can't have non-system created shares must be limited to groups that require it, right? It seems like they were kind of willy-nilly with their shares, just reading the article and how the kid was moving, right? So SMB, once again, is just a share on Windows. I'm anti, even though V2 is a little more secure. V1 definitely, S&B V1 definitely you can't put into action, right? So from the blue team, these are things we walk through with the developers, right, to make sure we're using shares appropriately. So if the young guy gets them, he just can't go walking through the company's network because you got shares out there, right? So that was it. So I'm gonna drop the link if you wanted to come up. Like I said, my man Friday sent that to me. That was so I just said I'm gonna go live on that one. I really liked it. I thought it was something different on a Friday. So let's see what JM said here. Programs should not leave visible comments that provide too much information. No, that's true. That is true. That's true. There's a thing, documentation and giving too much documentation, right? So if you're going to give extra documentation, right, that needs to be somewhere else where people have to log into it and get that, right? So you won't be spilling the beans with the documentation. So that's definitely 100% correct. I bet you they will be monitoring if he did this. So I don't like the smell of vinegar, but it's still no facts. No facts. But two is the cool thing is that's why you want to cut logging on people, right? It's not the person getting caught; it's if the person's credentials get hijacked or social engineered. You can track where that person went to, so you can figure out what that person hacked, right? Cool. I'm hoping everybody's gonna have a great weekend. Bad practice is often because those practice or know about security. No, I agree with that. Bad practice. No, that is true. That is true. But two is I think security, and I try to be that is we have to get more integrated into the processes of the organization. Most security teams try to do third-party scanning as a bolt-on or an addition. When I'm on site, a lot of times I'll go to the programmer stand-up, right? So then they get used to me being there, right? I'm not an adversary, right? I'm trying to be an advocate so they don't get in trouble, right? So if I see stuff in a meeting, I can say, I think we need to put this in scanning. And two is I try to have an answer and a resource to help them, right? I hate when people tell me I can't do something, then tell me how to do it, right? So I try to touch a lot of pieces on my channel because as a security analyst, you can be an architect, DBA, networking guy. When you go to those teams and you ask for certain security checks, hardening processes, right? If I tell them you can't do this, I need to be able to tell them what they can do, right? So it's a give and take. Maybe they want to do something. Maybe we need to make it more secure, right? Maybe we need to add a token. Maybe we need to add MFA to it. Maybe we need to put it to a different part of subnet, right? So it can't get to other parts in the subnet, right? So there's things to do to help, but a lot of times security is known as always the people that says no, right? They block stuff, but in the end, business or in business to make money, right? So I try to tell them my value is if I tell you no, 99% of the time I'm gonna say you can do this instead, and this is how you set it up, right? So a lot of people know I'm on my AWS journey and my AWS skills. So I'm getting my certs. Part of me getting certs is if I tell you no on AWS, what can I tell you? Well, this is how you do it. This is more secure, and this is going to even make it easier for you to do it, right? We can automate a lot of these things so you don't have to do them manually, right? So that's what we're trying to, do and get to the next level, right? So now you're a security architect. But databases can help mitigate those risks. No, that's true. That's true. And that's the thing is to how you mitigate those risks, right? Is it secure coding? You can buy insurance. You can stop doing that, right? There's a ton of ways to mitigate risk, right? Insurance, we're gonna give the risk to somebody else. Just stop doing that, right? Okay, we out of business. It's too risky. There's companies that won't do certain businesses, even though it'll make money. It's just too risky, right? The lawsuit's gonna be bigger than the profits, right? Or I can't do this, but let's do this, right? So there's once again myriad of ways to skin that cat, right? I just thought this was a good article. Number one, it's a young person. Number two is Uber seemed to had a whole lot of stuff missing. Like we said, when you VPN, you got to have MFA. So how did they steal that? Okay, even if you social engineer that person's VPN password, when they're VPN, they should have to MFA to your phone token, Google token, or something. So even though you social engineer that person, you should not be able to VPN to uh, those PowerShell scripts because those were management level scripts. So you have to have MFA to get in there. Just one thing, I'll have MFA. I will actually have them assume a role to be able to get into those scripts, right? Because those were high privilege scripts because they were management scripts, right? So there seems to be breakdown in a ton of ways from a security perspective of what Uber was doing, right? So that's one reason I want to hit that article. So, like I said, we're talking about incident response, practice, reporting, VPN. We showed the MFA graph, right? There was just a ton of things that just perusing that article that Uber just totally missed. So, once again, Uber needs to tighten that up and don't be like Patreon and fire your whole security team. Y'all need to be hiring more people. So shout out to Patreon. You know, you got to get your security team tightened up. So I think that's all I had. I'm gonna wait for a few more questions. Just let me know. I'm hoping to go live Sunday at 3. Just check me out after the football game. So we're probably gonna do system manager once again. Talk a little bit about automation, how we would automate what we were just looking at from the forensic standpoint, and session manager, how you can actually work on backend resources without having access to the internet, which I think is pretty cool. Um, so that's all I have for today. I want everybody to have a great Friday. Go check out my man. It's in the chat. Black Men in Tech. Go check out my man B2B. I love to see young people doing their thing, man. I'll be 55 this year, so I'm trying to pass the time and let them dudes run it. So now that's all I got. Professor Blackops at gmail.com. If you got any questions for me, give me a couple days. I'm old. I be late on the email sometimes. So I'm trying to do better. Peace to my man, Casual Economist. We always on the B2B site, checking him out. I ain't been over in a while. He been talking too much about relationships. I'm old. I'm divorced. Don't want nobody want me. So I just do my tech stuff over here. But shout out to the B2B. I'm going to check him out. He said he's going to do this article too. I just want to see his perspective because there's just so many perspectives in this space, so many smart people. I've been in the game probably the longest. I've been in IT for 30 years. I've been in cybersecurity for 10 plus, but I like to see new ideas, new techniques. And sometimes I did COBOL, man. COBOL, it exists, but it's only ran in very few places. So I did PL1 and Fortran. That doesn't exist anymore. Shout out She. We was wrapping it up. Definitely one of my day one supporters. I always shout him out. He always checking my videos out, giving me the hands up reply. He don't say a lot, but I know he support me, so I definitely appreciate it. So check out my man, Black Man in Tech, B2B. So shout out to Gail at night. I'm at the go over there and contribute to her. She's always taking care of me. Shout out to the passport, bro. Yeah, shout out to them. I'm leaving that alone. I'm too old for the passport. When you're 55, you should stay inside the United States. JM, that's all I'm gonna say on that. I'm gonna leave that one alone, JM. If you old, don't leave the United States. No, I'm just playing. I'm gonna let the passports and the coaching and all that figure it out. The old guys, the BGS arguing with I'm gonna let those guys work that out, man. But shout out to it. There's so many good sites. As I said, check my man Black Man in Tech. I always support my man B2B. I'm out, man. I'm gonna go give me a little barbecue. I need to be losing a little weight, but I want some barbecue today. I'm having a good Friday. Everybody have a good weekend. Come check me out. Come check the replay out on Sunday. I'm going Sunday at 3 Eastern time. So I usually watch my team. They usually losing by then, so I usually just jump on my live because my team be losing. But I'll check y'all out on these cybersecurity streets. Please subscribe.